Hello and welcome to the CosmoParenting Podcast, brought to you by the CMM Institute for Personal and Social Evolution. In this space, we invite you to see yourself as someone who is curious about and actively participating in creating your own meaning around parenting. Today, we are beginning a new month and a new theme, so this is our Appreciate episode, where we introduce the theme and offer questions to reflect on that help us appreciate where we are and where we've been. Let's begin. This month, we are considering adaptation. Two truths about adaptation to start off with are that adaptation can be planned or spontaneous, and also adaptation can be positive or negative. I think it's important for parents to understand adaptation because what is parenting if not just adapting to new situations over and over again forever? In the trailer for this podcast, I compared parenting to improvising. And this is the month where we're really going to focus on what that means and how to not only improvise as a parent, but improvise well. So adaptation can be planned or spontaneous. What I mean by this is that you can kind of premeditate or plan in advance to adapt. Sounds like an oxymoron, but it works. You can know that a situation will require you to be flexible and improvise. For example, maybe you're planning on having a conversation with your kid that you haven't ever had before. Like maybe a family member has passed away and this is your first time talking about death with your child. You can know that this is a new situation for both of you, and you can prepare yourself to be adaptable to whatever your child might say, do, or feel, and also for whatever you might say, do, or feel in the moment. Other times, though, you might not get to plan for adaptability, like if your child comes home from school and asks about death because they heard someone talking about it in class. You might not have been planning on having that conversation yet, but you can still improvise well in the moment if you've cultivated an approach to parenting that emphasizes adaptability. It's also important to understand adaptation not only as something we choose, but also something that happens unconsciously, which can then be positive or negative. This is important to know for yourself and for your child. This is about how we are adapting to our environment. A child that lives in an aggressive and combative home where there's a lot of yelling and anger might adapt to be quiet, learn not to cause trouble, or to go unnoticed, because it's safer than making a scene. On the other hand, a different child in a different home might adapt to be outspoken, loud, and opinionated because the environment they were raised in allowed them to be. As you reflect on the theme of adaptation, I want to offer you some questions to guide you. I'm going to ask the questions here, but you can also find them written in the show notes of this episode and on our Substack. The first question is this: in what ways have you adapted to environments you've been in? The second question: in your parenting, what situations are fairly easy for you to adapt to, and what situations are the hardest? The third question: think of an example where you turned a challenging experience into a positive one by how you adapted to it. How did you do it? And what did it feel like? And the fourth question: how can you plan to adapt or expect the unexpected? What would make you feel prepared to handle uncertain situations? Okay, those are the questions I will leave you with today. I invite you to spend some time in reflection after this episode ends and throughout your week thinking about these questions and your answers to them. I'll also point you toward the additional resources we have available at www.cosmoactivities.com for all ages, all of which are free. And I'll also encourage you to do at least some of your reflecting on these questions on the CosmoParenting Substack so you can be in dialogue with our community. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the CosmoParenting Podcast. We are truly so grateful to be on this journey with you, and we will see you next week to hear a parenting story.